In the early 1980s, Hollywood's golden sheen concealed a seedy underworld of drugs, crime, and betrayal. On July 1st, 1981, the quiet streets of Laurel Canyon in Los Angeles became the backdrop for one of the most brutal and notorious killings in California's history, the Wonderland murders. This is the story of how adult film star John Holmes, a fading legend, became entangled in a violent crime spree and took dark secrets to his grave. On the morning of July 1st, 1981, the bodies of Ron Lanyas, Billy Laurel, Joy Miller, and Barbara Richardson were found bludgeoned to death in a house on Wonderland Avenue. The police would later compare the brutality to the Manson family murders that had rocked Los Angeles 12 years earlier. The only survivor, Susan Lanyas, barely clung to life, suffering severe head injuries. Her cries for help alerted movers nearby, who called the police. Police would soon discover that the killings were the result of a botched drug robbery involving the Wonderland Gang, a ruthless group of drug dealers, and their feud with a powerful nightclub owner and drug kingpin, Eddie Nash. At the center of this bloody feud was John Holmes, once the undisputed king of adult films. Holmes had reached the height of fame in the 1970s, starring in over 1,000 X-rated movies. But by the early 80s, Holmes was a shadow of his former self, crippled by an addiction to cocaine that had taken everything from him: his career, his fortune, and his dignity. Holmes' drug habit led him to the Wonderland Gang, where he found himself indebted to the dangerous Ron Lanyas and Billy Laurel. Desperate to stay in their good graces and feed his addiction, Holmes agreed to lead the gang to rob Eddie Nash, a powerful figure with deep connections to the Los Angeles underworld. 2 days before the murders, Holmes facilitated the robbery of Eddie Nash's house. The Wonderland Gang managed to steal a significant amount of drugs, cash, and valuables. Holmes, under pressure from both sides, left a sliding door open for the gang to enter Nash's heavily guarded home. But Nash's response would be swift and brutal. According to testimonies, Nash's associates captured Holmes, beating and threatening him until he revealed the identities of the thieves. Many believe that Nash ordered the Wonderland murders in retaliation for the robbery. On the night of June 30th, 1981, vengeance came swiftly. Nash's men, possibly with Holmes in tow, entered the Wonderland house and unleashed unspeakable violence. Armed with pipes and hammers, they brutally beat the inhabitants to death. When police arrived the next morning, they found a house that resembled a war zone. John Holmes' involvement in the murders has been a subject of debate for decades. His palm print was found at the scene, but Holmes remained silent about his role. While he was arrested and tried for the murders, he was eventually acquitted. Holmes claimed that he had been forced to watch the massacre, helpless to stop it. Eddie Nash, the nightclub owner and drug dealer, was long suspected of orchestrating the murders. Nash had built an empire in the Los Angeles underworld, using violence and intimidation to stay on top. Despite being charged multiple times, Nash's trial ended in a hung jury. He would never be convicted for the Wonderland killings. One of the most controversial testimonies in the case came from Scott Thorson, the former lover of Liberace. Thorson claimed that he was present when Holmes was beaten and forced to confess to Nash. He also alleged that Nash orchestrated the killings as revenge for the robbery. While many doubted Thorson's credibility, his testimony played a crucial role in shaping the narrative around the case. The Wonderland murders exposed the darker side of Hollywood's glitz and glamour. The rise of cocaine in the late 70s and early 80s turned the entertainment industry into a breeding ground for crime, addiction, and violence. The case also revealed how deeply drugs had infiltrated every aspect of society, from actors to drug dealers like Nash. Holmes' career never recovered from his involvement in the Wonderland murders. His addiction to drugs left him a broken man, and in 1986, he tested positive for AIDS. In his final years, Holmes never revealed the full truth of what happened that fateful night, taking his secrets to the grave when he died in 1988 at the age of 43. The Wonderland murders remain one of the most notorious unsolved crimes in Hollywood history. The case highlighted the deadly consequences of greed, addiction, and betrayal. Decades later, the questions still remain. What was John Holmes' true role in the murders? And who were the real killers?